All right. Rudra is a Singapore-based uh, black death metal quartet who began as a death thrash influenced band, and early in the early '90s. So consider that these are definitely old school fans who were probably listening to more of the surface level, most prominent and important bands at the time, which you can figure what those would be from the covers they've done on a more recent covers album. So Eight Mahavidyas is it's kind of their 30th anniversary album. But more importantly, it's kind of a return to a different, um, the most evolved era of the band, which showed up in the uh, I would say mid to late 2000s through the 2010s, where they started working on a trilogy of albums, which were they really set the tone for the rest of their career, and the lineup for the final of the trilogy is is actually brought back for this album. So in many ways, the Brahmavidya trilogy is echoed in Eight Mahavidyas. There's 10 albums in this band's discography, so I am not going to go through the history of the band here, and you're going to have to take my word for the fact that the early stuff was more in line with old school death metal. It touched upon melodic death metal, and eventually worked towards almost a black thrash affect. So there's none of this was typical. So the important thing is that they have incorporated elements of traditional Indian music into their work and rhythms, and that affects both the cadence of the vocals, the percussion used, and a lot of what people would consider folk music insertions. I don't consider it folk music, I consider it traditional, but with Indian music, there's so much to it that it doesn't really do anyone justice to generalize it. So, a basic education in the way that Indian music is made and phrased and the purpose it's used for is helpful in understanding why this band is so cool. But these guys are extreme metal fans who were influenced by thrash and death metal in the late 80s and early 90s. So you can pick up on their work quite easily as to what it is. I think it was more groove oriented at some point, and a lot of people lost interest in that. But they've always kept it more or less about the riff. And that might mean that certain things will remind you of Melakesh by just association, or Immortal, or Abzu, or whatnot. I don't think any of those quite fit, but uh, more importantly, the concept of this album is based off of an ancient text where there are 10 Mahavidyas, which were goddesses, which are all sort of tributed in an ancient Vedic text. And here they've interpreted this in their own way by picking historical figures, women, and presenting them as goddesses in the same way. And I think it's a really interesting concept. I think this band has always been really good at concept albums, and the only thing that's really faltered throughout their career has been the actual production values. So here we get a strong production value up front. In the same year that we get, I believe, a total of 6 reissues of past albums, which uh, the first 3 have been remastered with new art, and then the Brahmavidya trilogy. Uh, I think the third album has been remastered because it was pretty rough at the time, and then we have this new album. So there's a lot of Rudra coming at you this year, and if you missed it, at least catch up with those 6 albums because this is a cool band that not a lot of people know about. Um, so what can I say? Like, I've been a fan of this band for so long, and I've recommended them for so long that I know that the average person is just not going to go check it out at all because they don't really know, what is the end there. And it really is the exotic rhythmic touch of the band that makes it so interesting. And if you can discern between uh, the music of India and more general arabesque music, then you'll understand why this is a cool and unique thing that we just don't hear enough of that is unique to them. So it's worth checking out, and there's many more details in the review. Um, so go ahead and check that out and see if that's your kind of thing, because I think it's worth getting into this band. And even if you just like the first two albums, that would make sense to me. But the first six are pretty great, and this kind of reprises that peak about 2011. So there you go.